Love is the absolute certainty of co-living and coexisting in everything that exists. In fauna and flora, in fellow human beings, in every material and spiritual life form of any kind, and in the existence of the entire universe and beyond.
These explanations of love will be somewhat advanced, and because of this, it's important that you keep an open mind. This is due to our lack of education or training on what love is. Our ideas and understandings on love are very basic and in many cases misunderstood. So, when you hear some new ideas or concepts on love in this video, be careful not to simply dismiss them. Many of these new definitions on love are going to be very different from what you've known. And because of this, it's very easy to dismiss these new and unfamiliar concepts. Often, one of our personality forms will step forward and say no to new and unfamiliar ideas. Please at least try and prevent this from happening. And if it does, see if you can recognize it. In this video, we will be exploring The Law of Love, a book by Billy Meier. The various forms of love number in the thousands, and because of this, there is no possible way to cover all of them in this video. However, some of the various love forms include sympathetic love, friendship love, platonic love, covenant love, marriage, neighbor love, and universal love. And in between these main forms of love are numerous gradations of love forms, which are conditioned by each person's emotions, thinking, and desires, which means that the creation of the different forms of love is done by each person's character. These forms of love are things we create ourselves. Billy has a very specific definition of love, which is, love is the absolute certainty of co-living and coexisting in everything that exists, in fauna and flora, in fellow human beings, in every material and spiritual life form of any kind, and in the existence of the entire universe and beyond. This is a very encompassing definition. Let's explore the first sentence of this definition. Love is the absolute certainty of co-living and coexisting in everything that exists. This means feeling the absolute certainty that one co-lives in everything that exists. Feeling that the existence of other life forms, including human beings, is part of one's own existence. Love is the absolute knowledge, feeling, and sensation of co-living with all existing life forms in the universe. This means that true love and its true fulfillment can only take place when we realize and understand that true love, no matter which form it takes, friendship love, platonic love, can only exist when it's free from emotions and personal influence of any kind, and is defined by the law of love, which is, love is the absolute certainty of co-living and coexisting in everything that exists. Real love, or true love forms, develop only in the purely spiritual side of man, in the Empfindung block, or the fine spiritual perception block of the spiritual consciousness. If you haven't watched the video, Consciousness, How Does It Work Part 2, which covers the spiritual consciousness and the German term Empfindung, you can either click on the link here or watch it later from the Billy Meier Books YouTube library. The true love that can develop in the Empfindung block can only be done through intentional thinking or observation and doesn't happen on its own. True love forms in the Empfindung block in the spiritual consciousness through intentional experience and wisdom, and is radiated over to the psyche in the material consciousness, where we become conscious of it through feelings. This feeling of true love experienced between human beings is a highly sensitized experience and does not have any fluctuations of highs or lows. This type of true love is called effective love with an E. True love is the absolute certainty that one co-lives in everything that exists, whether that's a plant, a spirit form, an animal, a planet, a rock, or a fellow human being. Billy also describes another type of love called affective love. Affective love, with an A, are the forms of love that are commonly known in society and are also called emotional love or feeling love. Affective love forms are generated by human beings through their thinking, their will, emotion and sensual impressions, feelings, impulses, and perceptions, just to name a few things. Thinking and feeling are the most decisive factors for the generation of affective love. And because our thinking and feeling are the creative force, these processes, along with wishes and desires, produce an emotional state with an illusion that one could have a strong, positive relationship with another human being. However, in reality, the relationship is built on wrong feelings, wrong thoughts, and wrong desires. This is how affective love, or sometimes called emotional love, is formed. The development of affective love, or emotional love, always begins with thoughts, which then produce certain feelings, and soon thereafter, a will is created to experience a relationship with another person. The beginning of these thoughts can be triggered by voices, a physical body, ways of speaking or moving, clothes, profession, wealth, and many other things. These emotional or feeling emphasized forms of love are created by the will and are always related to the stability of the person concerned. The more stable a person is, the more stable the emotional love will be. And consequently, the more unstable a personality is, the more unstable the emotional love will be. Because of this, affective forms of love are subject to tremendous fluctuations in their intensity. Affective forms of love can range from cheering and exuberance to depression and distress. The range of intensity could also include rage, hate, and murder. Affective forms of love are generally marked by jealousy, which often takes an extremely destructive and murderous course. All affective forms of love are generated through thinking, feeling, and emotions, and are brought about by the will. In most cases, we are not aware that these affective forms of love are simply imaginations, which are based on wrong feelings, wrong thoughts, and wrong desires. All of the many variations of affective love, also called emotional love, are completely different and separate from true love or effective love, which originates in the spiritual consciousness. Being in love is a form of love that produces a relationship experience and affection that manifest as a state of control. This means that being in love creates an emotional and affectionate relationship experience that produces a form of control from one person to another. For example, infatuation love is a form of affective love. The formation of infatuation love takes place through so many different factors, such as physical appearance, wealth, profession, hobbies, knowledge or intelligence, social position, personality, character, and many, many other things. Depending on the degree of intensity of the infatuation love, different forms of uncontrollability appear. This means that depending on the depth and intensity of the infatuation love, a person's objectivity and judgment are impaired concerning the person's inner and outer life. Because of this, many deficiencies, vices, addictions, responsibilities, and bad character traits are overlooked in the person to whom the infatuation is directed. This lack of objectivity and inability to make real assessments is easily passed by and overlooked. This infatuation love can produce a euphoric state and progress so far that the person in love becomes very unobjective towards the other person and believes the other person has no defects at all and sees them as the fulfillment of life and the perfect partner. This can progress even further, and the person in love devotes their entire body and soul to the other person and believe they cannot live without them. This is called bondage love and is a very dangerous state in which jealousy, hatred, revenge, and even murder and suicide can take place. Infatuation love also has a detrimental effect on conduct and behavior. Generally, those in love show their best side in an exuberant way, which doesn't correspond to their real personality. A completely different portrayal of their personality is displayed. Along with this, feelings are produced that make the person in love believe they are presenting their true behavior and true personality. However, this only lasts for a few years at most, until the person in love discards the artificial display and conduct and reverts back to their real personality. This leads to fighting, disruption, and discord in the relationship. The infatuation love form is triggered by impulses from sights, sounds, and other influences. These impulses of perception are registered by the consciousness without us being aware of it. Then, slowly, these impulses become active and exert an influence on the consciousness until attention is directed to the growing impulses. From this, the consciousness forms thoughts concerning the impulses, which form further perceptions and influences to the point where the thoughts reach a conscious form, where they are further consciously developed and aligned with wishes and fantasies about the concerned person. At this point, conscious thoughts are now specifically directed towards the person in question, which generates feelings, affections, and the wish to have a relationship. This is the point at which infatuation love has attained its existence. The development of true love actually begins in the mental block of the personality consciousness block, which is our material consciousness. We covered these concepts of the material consciousness in a past video called Consciousness, How Does It Work? Part 1. If you haven't seen this video, Consciousness, How Does It Work? Part 1, you can click on the link here or simply pause this video and go watch that one to get some background information on the personality consciousness block. The development of true love begins in the realm of the feelings and the psyche. During the course of normal evolution, a primary ability develops in human beings to create and develop feelings and the ability to perceive these feelings. Through the development of feelings and the perception of feelings, understanding and reason are applied, whereby a person is able to produce conscious actions and conscious thoughts in a conscious form. Through this conscious thinking, feelings are produced. This means that through conscious thinking and the application of understanding and reason, one can, through their will, form feelings based on these thoughts. Through this formation of feelings, one is able to create affective relationship experiences with a type of devotion to another human being. This relationship experience and devotion creates a state in humans that is dominated by feelings and emotions. Of course, this state can vary in depth depending on the depth of the devotion and the relationship experience, either higher or lower. This state of the relationship experience is defined as love and has a broad range of forms, from sympathy love to friendship love to infatuation love, and so on. This affective form of love dominates and controls us, ranging from being cool and calm all the way up to being love blind through infatuation. Many people become absolutely blind and dismissive of reality when in love. People in love also have special ways of dressing and exhibit out of normal personality behaviors which are not recognized by those in love. These affective forms of love are created and influenced by thoughts that are stimulated by many external things, such as a deep gaze, a nice body, a sweet perfume, or a gentle touch. The thoughts and feelings that arise from these things and many other things create the relationship experience, affection, and emotional state. This affective form of love has absolutely nothing in common with effective love, which originates in the Empfindung block in the spiritual consciousness. However, the affective forms of love do serve an important purpose. The affective forms of love create the basis or beginning of the higher effective form of love. All forms of development of man are formed on the material side, in the personality consciousness block. All forms of consciousness, if you remember all of the many different forms of consciousness we talked about in the video Consciousness, How Does It Work Part 1, all feelings, all forms of love, all of these things are formed in the material side of life. Throughout the many course of our evolutions, of our lifetimes, all of these things are developed and matured, and after a certain point of development, the higher forms of development are able to influence the spiritual consciousness through impulses. This means that the higher forms of the material consciousness begin to form in the spiritual consciousness. With regard to the forms of love created and developed in the material consciousness, Billy calls these first love forms, or affective love forms, or primary love forms. When these forms have developed high enough and strong enough and have attained the necessary clarity and purity, they begin to send high impulses to the spiritual consciousness and are taken up by the Empfindung block and worked over with wisdom and experience. Out of this, true love or effective love is created. This true love is then sent back to the psyche in the material consciousness and is formed there as a high feeling and high sensitivity, which then one can become conscious of. True love can be felt in nature if one takes the time to contemplate nature and feel all the forces of nature. This natural, true love can be sensed in nature through a certain way of thinking and the resulting feelings. As an example, the next time you are out in nature, try to become aware of a tree, or an animal, or even an insect, and try to perceive the connection as being part of them or as being one with them. You can do the same with other human beings whenever you want and wherever you are. The longer, the more active one is in this endeavor, the more certain you will become of your connection and bond with other life forms. If true love or effective love is developed in us, then this true love is rock solid and never wavers in its consistency. Once true love has been developed, it can never be destroyed. This is in complete contrast to affective love, which is always fickle and moves through highs and lows and can even change into hatred, jealousy, and feelings of revenge. Love is an ability provided to the human existence so that we can develop an intensive, positive relationship to other human beings. As we have seen, there are two different forms of love: affective love and effective love. Affective love is also called emotional love or feeling love. Affective love forms are generated by human beings through their thinking, will, feelings, emotion, impulses, and perceptions. Effective love, or true love, is formed in the Empfindung block in the spiritual consciousness. As we have learned, love is the absolute certainty of co-living and coexisting in everything that exists. True love is the absolute certainty and the absolute knowledge and the absolute feeling that all life is a partial existence of one's own life. Well, thank you for joining me again on this video on love, and we hope to see you next time.